Hi, my name is Jay Thorpe, and today I'm going to talk to y'all about iron deficiency in pregnant women. So, I'm going to go over what is iron, its function, the importance of iron in pregnant women. I'm going to talk about the absorption of iron in the body and what is iron deficiency anemia, 2 different studies about iron in pregnant women, ways to get iron, and the recommended amounts. So what is iron? As most of you know, iron is an element in the periodic table. It is a metal, but it is also an essential nutrient in our body. Since iron is a metal, it is toxic in its free forms in the body. So once ingested in the body, it is always bound to a protein. It is needed for healthy blood, and we get iron from food groups such as plants and meats and the forms of heme and non-heme groups. And iron also helps our muscles store and use oxygen. So the functions of iron, the major role is in oxygen binding, and it is essential in making hemoglobin, which is the protein, and red blood cells. And this protein carries oxygen to other cells with the help of iron. And it is also, when absorbed, most of the iron in our body is used in the bone marrow. And once in the bone marrow, it helps precursors of red blood cells become mature blood cells, incorporated into the hemoglobin. And if there is not enough iron in the body, the iron deficiency can cause an anemia, and the anemia is a decrease in oxygen carrying capacity of the blood, since iron does help hemoglobin, which carries the oxygen. So I'm going to have a brief discussion about the absorption of iron. So once iron is ingested into the body, it is absorbed in the lumen of the small intestine through active transport through a protein, the BMTI protein. But before it can be transported, the iron is in an Fe3 plus state, which is the ferrous state. And with the help of a vitamin C enzyme, it is reduced to the Fe2 plus state. Once reduced, it is carried, it attaches to a transferrin, and it is carried throughout the body. And once it reaches the bone marrow, the red blood cells precursors take up the iron, and it is incorporated into hemoglobin. And once that happens, the mature red blood cells can now go into the bloodstream and be transported throughout the body. And once the red blood cells dies, it goes to the spleen, and iron is then released, recycled, and recirculated throughout the body. And iron can be stored in the liver and the Fe3 plus state. And little iron is actually lost. If it is lost, it's through excretion such as urine or sometimes skin cells. And now I'm going to talk about iron deficiency. So an iron deficiency results from too little iron in the body. It is the most common deficiency in the U.S. And if you do have an iron deficiency, signs are fatigue, which impairs like physical activity and the ability to do work. And vegans, since they do not get enough heme iron from meats, which is more easily absorbed than non-heme iron, they have a tendency to be iron deficient. And iron deficiency anemia, so this can happen if you lose more blood cells than your body can replace, such as through an injury, menstruals, and also if your body just does not do a good job of absorbing iron, such as certain illnesses and medications can affect the way iron is absorbed. You're just not getting enough iron from food groups, or if your body needs more iron than normal, such as pregnancy, which is what I will be discussing. Because blood supply demands are increased during pregnancy, so you need more iron. And about half of pregnant women are deficient in iron. This is due to the fact that the needs are doubled when you do become pregnant, and a lot of women start their pregnancy insufficient in iron. And the amount of blood when you're pregnant is increased by almost 50% more blood than usual. So you do need more iron to make that hemoglobin to help with the oxygen transport. And it is critical in the second and third trimester to have these sufficient iron stores, because that's when it mostly affects the baby. And iron deficiency anemia during pregnancy is associated with preterm delivery, low birth weight, and infant mortality. And also, when the baby does get older, the deficiency does, the baby will have a deficiency if the mother is pregnant. It does have a deficiency when pregnant, and this deficiency can delay normal infant motor function or mental function. And during pregnancy, and it's, as stated earlier, iron deficiency anemia is the most common nutritional anemia worldwide. And this is just due to the fact that people are not educated about the importance of iron, especially women of childbearing ages, where a deficiency in them can lead to a deficiency in their offsprings. And so I decided to find 2 studies on iron deficiency in different classes of women, and if supplementation will help once they are pregnant if they are deficient before. So the first study I did is a scenario of pregnant women living at an altitude at above 5,000 feet. And this was just done because these women, the city that they do live in, they do have it is a low and middle socioeconomic class, and it is in the Middle East. So the women are not very educated, and their husbands are farmers, so they don't have the right education or health facilities to find out about iron nutrition. And this study was just done to see if these women just the frequency of the iron deficiency anemia in the population and how frequent this does occur in low socioeconomic classes. And it was a cross-sectional study of 100 women aged 15 through 45. Oh, and in this slide, it's just a graph of the percentage of women. So 74% of the women were illiterate, and 26% had primary education. So these women who were having babies really probably did not know much about iron supplementation or other types of supplementation when pregnant. And their iron levels were tested, their hemoglobin levels were tested, and majority of the women were either anemic or did have an iron deficiency. So this study just states that these women with low socioeconomic class do remain at risk of developing iron deficiency anemia because of illiteracy, poverty, and just lack of knowledge. But with adequate nutrition and health education, the problem can be addressed effectively. And the second study was done also on different socio-economic and classes of women just in different cities in Greece, and also with supplementation once pregnant of iron deficient women and women who did have an adequate amount of iron. So it was effective iron supplementation on the iron status and the pregnancy outcome in pregnant women in Greece. And this was a prospective study, and so since iron supplementation is not a very common practice yet, they had a study on these women to supplement them, and research has also stated that this may be related to a lack of healthcare providers, particularly patients in the low socioeconomic classes. So in the first graph right here, we have three different groups. We have Greeks in Athens, Greek in other cities around Athens, like smaller cities, and immigrants in Greece. And these just tested the levels of hemoglobin and hematocrit and during the gestation period, and it followed them from time of gestation through birth. And they tested their levels throughout those stages. And this is just saying that the women in Greece, their iron levels were normal throughout their pregnancy, but with the immigrants and the Greeks in the other cities, their levels did drop and the same with the hemoglobin levels. And this one, it just states the employed and unemployed, and as you can tell, the unemployed levels, their levels during pregnancy did drop as well, just because they probably weren't as educated as the employed ones and didn't know much about the iron they needed in their body during pregnancy. So once the babies were born, they just weighed the babies to see if the birth weight was affected. And with the p-value, there really wasn't a difference. There was a slight difference with the iron deficient women. The babies did weigh a little less, but it wasn't a significant. And in this chart, so the women, they were tested. tested the women's blood, and the women who were not inadequate in iron, they supplemented them with just 100 milligrams of iron per day, and the women who were deficient, they got 200. And this chart just shows that the women who were adequate stayed adequate throughout gestation period, and the women who were deficient, even though they did get more iron, they still were deficient. So once you do become pregnant, this study just states that it is hard to become adequate during pregnancy once you are inadequate before. So it is important to stay educated and have the right amounts of iron in your body before pregnancy. And ways to test your iron levels, you can do a hemoglobin test or a hemocritic test, and hemoglobin is just the protein in your blood that does carry the oxygen, and the hematocrit test just measures the percentage of the red blood cells in your body. So the recommended amounts that you should get for babies, it is 11 milligrams a day, just because they are growing, but when they do become a little older, it does decrease to 7 to 10%. But once you do females reach their childbearing ages, it increases to 18 milligrams a day. And once you are pregnant, it increases significantly to 27 milligrams a day, just because your blood supply does increase to about 50%. So you do need that iron to attach to the blood cells to carry that oxygen and to help with the babies. So sources of iron, you can get them from many different sources: seafood, meats, fortified foods, vegetables, beans. And the ones in the asterisk are non-heme iron sources, which is not absorbed as well as the heme sources that you get from your red meats. So it is important to incorporate vitamin C foods into taking when eating these non-heme foods. And also when taking iron supplements, it is important to incorporate the vitamin C with that as well. And when getting iron supplements, it is important to not take polyphenols or calcium, because they decrease the non-heme absorption. And do not drink calcium coffee or tea when taking supplements, because they also block the absorption. And reduce acid in the stomach. So if you take antacids, do not take it with iron supplements, because it will have no effect. So treatments, you can get iron supplements, and if you do need a lot of iron and you are not and you cannot take it through a pill form, you can get it intravenous. And that's it.